Hello everyone, welcome back to Next Gen Competition. We are here at the Sonoma Raceway for round 10 of Season 6 in Project IndyCar for the Californian Grand Prix. The drivers are just finishing up practice now, just 2 minutes remain before we begin our first qualifying session. As they see a couple of drivers struggling in these tricky conditions. Had a little bit of rain in practice despite the very warm, sunny climate here in California. It is scheduled to have some more rain potentially for the race. Expected to hit at the start rather than later on. Hopefully, if there is rain, it won't be too long. You can see there are a few puddles on this racetrack. It's a very tricky racetrack in the wet, so these drivers can have their work cut out to get a good result from today's event. Currently in practice, you can see the driver who has been on a good bit of form recently, Adam Richardson, currently sitting top of the times by 4.5 seconds, a huge margin over the field there. As that's just closed down a little bit by Evan Dalton, who goes a few tenths closer to him, but Adam Richardson trying to continue his recent form and keep things up and try and get another win here today. Would be a crucial win, as he's expected to miss the next race of the season, which would mean he would drop back quite a bit in the championship fight, so he really needs to try and capitalise now whilst he can. Less than a minute now remaining in this session. Hello to the viewers. I'm very glad to have you along here with us. Looking forward to hopefully another exciting instalment into what has been a brilliant season, I must say, so far in Project IndyCar. Lots of different winners and plenty of changeable races, and we could well see that the same today here. Currently got 7 drivers in, potential for an 8th, not 100% sure yet. But yes, I'll give you a quick rundown of the championship before we go into qualifying here, which is just a few moments away. Currently Evan Dalton has a 4-point championship lead over Aston Lewis, and then the gap is 24 points from first to third, which is Adam Richardson, who's just 1 point ahead of Scott Sandifer, and then in 5th it is Adam Liu, and Jonathan Mills is in 6th. The top 6 of the championship all looking like the legitimate championship contenders so far this season. Tyler Davison in 7th, he's missed a few races, and I believe he's missing here today as well, so he's anyone from him on back is looking like they are out of the title fight. But the top 6 are still all in it, with them covered by just 65 points, which is just over a race win. And the top 4 in particular are extremely close, with just 25 points covering the top 4, which is really a tiny margin in IndyCar that can be closed up very quickly, and could well be closed up very quickly, as practice has now come to an end. A brief look at the team's championship standings before we go into qualifying as well. And it is Jonathan Mills Racing, who currently lead on 611 points. Then it's Phoenix Motorsports on 606, Fast Formula Racing in 3rd with 552, Dalton Motorsport in 4th with 550. So those 4 are the sort of contenders to the team's championship. The favourites, of course, being JMR and Phoenix, as of course they're 1st and 2nd, but Fast Formula Racing and Dalton Motorsport, you can't rule them out just yet. They're still not that far out of the fight, but it is looking like it's going to be JMR versus Phoenix. And with the recent form Phoenix has been on, there's no reason to suggest it won't be them to take that lead away fairly soon, if not today. So let's go forth into the qualifying session for the Californian Grand Prix. The gap they saw at the end of practice did close down quite a bit, as Scott Sandifer managed to close up to within 2 seconds, but now with a dry qualifying session, a clean slate for all these drivers to work from. And you see here them try and make their way out of the pit lane. First challenge of the day. Let's get up the track map, the speedometer, and the split, so we can see what each driver is up to on the racetrack. Scott Sandifer looks like he'll be the first driver out of the pit lane, closely followed by Aston Lewis. I mean, we have side-by-side racing qualifying, that's not every day you see that. Yeah, we see Aston Lewis now. He wants to get that clean air, he wants to be the first car out front, and he has got ahead of the pack here as he builds up the tyre temp in preparation for his first flying lap of the session. Makes his way through this tricky downhill left-hander, the carousel it's called, It's a very tricky corner. And he's navigated that well, although just an out lap for now. Now up through the double right-hander at the top of the hill. Now diving back down the hill towards the S section. Now you see them sweeping through this flat-out S section in an IndyCar, just dipping a wheel onto the grass and, well, dead grass, I suppose it is around here at this time of year, despite the chance of rain. Then into that little tight chicane could be a good opportunity for overtaking, and then another opportunity into this final corner here, the hairpin. Slightly earlier than some of the other layouts, but you get it in through there. A nice straight line out on to the start-finish straight, and then up the hill towards turns 1 and 2. A lot of medium and high-speed corners on this racetrack, especially in a car like an IndyCar. These things really fly through these corners, especially if you compare it to a lot of the other racing series that you see more commonly at Sonoma. NASCAR springs to mind, obviously a big tin-top racing series. Not going to have the grip that these IndyCars do, as you see really chucking it in on the outside line there, trying to get all the grip he can. Putting his foot to the floor, using all the road on exit, trying to get the most out of this lap. Now up towards the right-hander here. Gets it in fairly nicely, a little bit wide, that might give him a slowdown, but looks like he's got away with it. And then through the next of the right-handers, those two apexes there are potential overtaking zones. You have to be quite brave into those two corners, but they're definitely an opportunity, especially if the car ahead makes a mistake. Dirty air is a bit of a problem around this circuit. It's not as bad as some of the other races we've seen so far this season, like Tota last week, for example. But it's still not that nice. Luckily, with this layout, we get a few more slow and medium speed corners, mainly slow speed corners that help the situation. Of course, there are other layouts of Sonoma, but those, if anything, just add more sort of high speed corners into it, which just really add to the dirty air, because that's where you need the downforce. In slow speed, it's less about the downforce, more about the driver. So, you know, a quicker driver behind a slower driver can make up time even with a bit of dirty air in the slow speed corners, but in the high speed, it's so reliant on the downforce that any pace advantage you may well have had is so much harder to use through those sorts of corners. Here at the Sonoma Race Fair, they do like to give some corners some unusual names. For example, they have turn 2 and turn... it's turn 3 and turn 3A. They've also got turn 8 and turn 8A. They also have turn 9A without any turn 9. It's just turn 9A. And also turn 11B. Sorry. So yeah, it's an unusual circuit when it comes to corner names. Ashton Lewis currently at the top of the timesheets by 4 tenths over Jonathan Mills. Just approaching the halfway point as Aston's way off the road into the wall. Pushing too hard there is Ashton Lewis. And that's another lap run away for him. Currently at the top of the times though, Afonso Silva, driver who has missed quite a lot of the season, he is here today, and he's looking to try and shock the field with a win in that Pythagon Racing car. Pythagon Racing, I believe, currently bottom of the standings. It's them or Funny F1, I think it's Pythagon though. So, a good result today could make all the difference in that fight over 5th in the championship. Adam Lee right up, closing the gap there as he's gone off the racetrack actually, yeah. He's had a bit of a moment coming up through out of turn 2. But also, Evan Dalton, he's closed right in. We've got a much closer qualifying session than we did in practice, which, you know, is understandable. Practice, it's less competitive, of course, and also with the changeable conditions making it quite a bit harder. But still, good to see a close field here for qualifying, at least so far. Who knows what some drivers might still have in store. Adam Richardson's yet to set a competitive lap time. Where's he on the racetrack? He is going quite slowly, maybe on an outlap at the moment. Jonathan Mills, he's up at turn 7A, we're going to call that one. Might make up some of these as we go along, just on the basis of not knowing them all. But yeah, currently it's very close, up at the top of the times. Afonso Silva, I believe, he's just started another lap time. Let's see how this goes for the Python Racing driver. He chucks it up into the S section there, really high speed stuff. Just carrying as much momentum, he goes off the road. Gonna have to try and turn it in from the grass there. And he's, you know what, to be fair to him, he's not as far off the apex as you perhaps would expect, given how far off the road he went. Good bit of rallying there from the Python Racing driver, but that'll be his lap done. Evan Dalton, he's just started another lap here. He's sliding his way through that same part of the racetrack out of turn 3A now into turn 4. Gets it in nicely, puts his foot to the floor. Now heading into turn 5 now. And heading towards the carousel, turn 6. Downhill, steeply downhill. Turning left all the way. It looks so high speed, but then you get into it and the elevation, the dropping off of the track through there means that you lose a lot of the grip you would have had. If that corner was uphill, it would be a much more, I don't know what the word is, sort of extravagant corner, I suppose you could say, but with it going downhill, it's sort of like driving a tippy toes through there. It's not easy in the slightest. Evan Dalton now, he's a second down in his best lap so far. This probably won't be a lap for him, as he's indeed backing off for Adam Liu. He's just heading up through turn 4 now. He's on a decent lap so far, not too far off in the first sector, and that lovely sort of metallic blue for Phoenix Motorsports. The team currently sitting second in the Teams Championship. Good day for them, could see them jump ahead of Jonathan Mills Racing. The Chevrolet powered team making their way up into turn 7 now. Gets it through nicely, a little bit of understeer at the middle of the corner, pushes him slightly wide. Again, a little bit of understeer through that next right-hander to turn 7A. And then we come down the S section here. Flying through this part of the track. Now heading towards turn 9A. Braking heavily. Locks the inside front a little bit, and that will push him a tad wide. Not over yet. Maybe he carried a bit more speed through the first apex that he can gain that time up, but I imagine that might be a bit of a sacrifice lap there for Adam Liu there. Let's see what it is as he comes across the start-finish line now. Where will this put him? He is indeed down by quite a bit. Next car to complete a lap, who will that be? We've got a car going quite slowly through the final corner, that's Scott Sandover. So is this him finishing a lap, or is he just beginning to start one now? Looks like he maybe was starting on there. As we see there, big improvement. Adam Richardson in a lap, much-needed improvement, I must say. He's up into 4th place, within 2 tenths of provisional pole at the moment. Who will be the next car to come through that final corner now? Will it be... It's Afonso Silva. He's coming through the final corner now. Is he on a lap, or is he building up to one? Let's see as he comes out of the final corner and across the line now. Powers his way across the line, and indeed not an improvement for him. Now we'll look at Evan Dalton. Let's see what he's been able to do on this lap. Comes out of the final corner, puts his foot to the floor, and he is down as well. Next car to cross the line will be Jonathan Mills. Then it will be Aston Lewis. The 2 Jonathan Mills Racing drivers there in the 98 and the 27. And the final corner, Jonathan Mills, is he on an improvement here? He comes out of the final corner, currently sitting 8 tenths off, and he's 6 tenths down on this lap, as Aston Lewis is clearly not pushing on this attempt, so he won't improve either. He appears to be just preparing himself for his final run of the session. Next couple of cars to be coming behind him are the 2 Phoenix Motorsports cars of the 2 Adams, Adam Liu and Adam Richardson. And we see Adam Liu making his way into the final corner. What will this lap time be for him? Powers out of that very tight and tricky final corner. Slope corners really are quite hard in these Indy cars. They're not designed for it. They're high downforce machines. It's a starting of a lap there for one of the Phoenix Motorsports drivers, and the same looks to be the case for Adam Richardson. So these two will be among the last drivers to set a lap time in this session. Who will be the next driver? Scott Sandover is the last one to complete a lap. Will it be Afonso Silva? No, there's one car ahead of him. Is that Evan Dalton? It is. Evan Dalton will be the first car to complete this session. Will it be a pole position for the Dalton Autosport man across the line? And it's not an improvement there. Same goes for Afonso Silva. He is unable to improve. Next up, is that Aston Lewis? No, is it Jonathan Mills? It is. Jonathan Mills. He's breaking in to the final corner now. Look how deep he went on the brakes. Will that cost him? He went a little bit wide on the exit of the corner. Will that invalidate the lap? It's entirely possible it will. He comes across the line and it's not an improvement for him. As now we look further down the field, but Aston Lewis will be the next driver to finish the session. No one is coming close just yet in these final runs to the current provisional pole time set by Afonso Silva. Will this be a first-time pole sitter in this Californian Grand Prix? A little bit wide of the final corner for Aston Lewis. What will this lap time be? Comes out of the final corner, across the line, And it's an improvement. 2 tenths up on provisional pole. Lewis to the top. Big jump up. Will anyone else be able to do anything similar? Adam Liu, he's not able to do it. What? And Adam Richardson, he's pit. Scott Sandover will be the last driver to complete a lap, and he's on the wrong track, so it's unlikely that this lap will be valid. So yeah, it's nearly an upset there in this qualifying session, so close to an Alfonso Silva pole position. In the end, it's Aston Lewis, the man who has been on a tear in all the championships of next-gen competition this season. He takes pole position for the Californian Grand Prix by 2 tenths over the youngster, the rookie, Alfonso Silva, looking to try and impress in one of his few starts this season. And you can see the difference. Small gaps in sectors 1 and 2, but then a bit of a tenth lost in sector 3. That was the big difference maker there for him. But yeah, very exciting qualifying session. Was quiet at times, but in the end it delivered. And just under 4 tenths covering the top 5. We are in for quite the exciting race. And the driver that top practice in the tricky conditions we saw in practice, they're starting 5th. That's Adam Richardson. He's got his work cut out in this race. But on pole position, it's Aston Lewis, ahead of Alfonso Silva. It's Jonathan Mills Racing, and the rain is falling here. The rain is indeed falling. We had a feeling there could be rain for the start, and it looks like that is going to be the case. Rain is falling here in the usual Sonoma sunshine, but on this occasion it is going to be a bit of a wet start to this race. Lots of drivers all sitting on the grid waiting for the start, getting themselves ready. At the back of the grid we have Scott Sandover for Fast Formula Racing in the number 9 Target Chevrolet. In 6th place, we have Jonathan Mills for Jonathan Mills Racing, and he's disconnected. No, Jonathan Mills, he's had a disconnection here. That's a problem for him. And he is out of this racing league. Let's see if there's any cause for that issue. I mean, Scott Sandover's up a position now. Adam Richardson, he's up into 5th position. Well, he was in 5th position, sorry, not up into that. Let's see if there's any issue here. And yeah, it does seem that Jonathan Mills has had a disconnection here. That is extremely unfortunate for him. Evan Dalton is 4th on the grid. The Dalton Autosport driver and championship contender this season in the number 12 Verizon Chevrolet. Then we have Adam Liu in the Preferred Freezer Services number 21 Chevrolet here for Phoenix Motorsports. Then comes Alfonso Silva in the number 5 lovely Arrow SMP. Arrow, I don't know what the team name is, but the Arrow Lucas Oil Honda here for Pythagon Racing. And then comes Aston Lewis, the pole sitter for today's event, driving for Jonathan Mills Racing. Sadly, the lone Jonathan Mills Racing car now, but he is on the pole for today's race in the DHL sponsored Honda number 28, looking to try and take victory here today. Jonathan Mills is asking to see if there's a restart. Lights coming on though. We're getting ready to go racing here. The lights are green. We are racing in the Californian Grand Prix. And immediately it's a great start from Liu. They're free wide as they head towards turn 1. They dive their way uphill in these very wet conditions. Liu's looking for the lead. Aston Lewis all the way around the outside though. He's found the grip where no one else could. He's got the lead here at the start. He holds it on from pole positions. They battle further back in the pack. Lots of racing here. Will they all make their way through the S section cleanly? Liu is up a position here. Oh, there's contact. Liu's off the road. Contact with Dalton. Dalton's going to miss the corner. So are another couple of drivers. Adam Richardson's gone wide, and that's Adam Liu all the way down to the back there. Contact with Dalton going down the hill. And that has put him to the back of the field here, and that's given Aston Lewis the perfect chance to break away out front. He is doing well here in this race as Alfonso Silva from 2nd on the grid drops to 3rd. A very good start, a crucially good start for Evan Dalton as he makes way up into 2nd place to try and reel in his championship rival Aston Lewis, who currently leads this race, but by 1.6 seconds already the gap. Not a small one, especially on this first lap, but in these tricky conditions it's so easy to make a mistake, and Aston Lewis, he goes a little bit wide there. He's just got to keep hold of the car for now and hope that it all works out for him here as you see, oh, contact! Evan Dalton's been hit off at the chicane there. Big mistake from Alfonso Silva. He goes straight across the chicane into the back of Evan Dalton, and that knocks him way off the road. You have to lift a little bit here so that he doesn't gain any advantage from it, because he has gained half a second. I mean, if he gets a slowdown for it, then the slowdown can be ignored as long as he does give up any time gained there. But Adam Richardson here in 3rd position. He is had an interesting first lap, a bit all over the place, but he's back up into 3rd place here. started 5th, gained a couple spots early, then had a little bit of a detour into the grass, then saw his teammate get sent flying off the road before eventually finding himself back up into 3rd place as Evan Dalton doing all he can to try and reel in the race leader. 1.4 seconds is the gap. The field beginning to spread out a touch here. As you see, that's a bit wide there from Adam Liu. He is not going to be happy with Evan Dalton after that bit of contact. Afonso Silva from 2nd on the grid. Was nearly a debut pole sitter here, but in the end drops back down into 6th position after that contact with Dalton. He's got some closer racing up towards the front. The gap's closing up a little bit here. Aston Lewis having to push hard out front. Evan Dalton with nothing to lose now in this 2nd position. He's got to really rally in this race whilst it's in these wet conditions. Try and make the most of these trickier conditions than what you would normally see to try and give himself a little bit of an advantage here in these tough conditions here at the Sonoma Raceway. A track that I'm sure has not seen many wet races in its time. Probably not seen much rain in its time, quite frankly, as the gap throughout the field, top 3 looking to break away just a little bit here. Then you've got the pair of Sandover and Liu in 4th and 5th, with Afonso Silva 10 seconds off the lead, down in 6th position, so he's sort of in no man's land at the moment, but this top 3 fairly close, and it should be an exciting one to see how this one develops here. Evan Dalton for the championship, he really needs to start getting some points onto Aston Lewis, who has got ahead of him in recent races. Same goes for Adam Richardson. He's currently sitting 3rd in the championship. Sorry, he needs to outscore these two because they're both ahead of him in the championship. The 1, 2, 3 in the championship are 1, 2, 3 in this race. Actually, that's not entirely true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the championship are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this race, which is impressive to show the sort of to be able to say that that's how good these guys are, and they've sort of found themselves in those positions. But equally, it's sort of like, well, if it finishes like this, it would be a pretty dull result for the championship because it would just spread all the margins out a little bit. But there are still a very, very long way to go in this race. Always a mistake there from Aston Lewis in the lead, sliding through that final corner, and there's a puddle appearing in that final corner, making it a bit trickier for all these drivers. We saw in practice that there was a bit of aquaplaning going on in that final corner, and it looks like that may well be happening here again as these drivers struggle to make their way through it. Let's see as they just sort of, you see that a little bit wide there from Afonso Silva at the back of the pack. You know, let's do something that we haven't done, I don't think, many times before. Let's go on board with the should we go roof? Here we go, roof. Let's go on board here with the car currently in 2nd place. We get to see what they see around this racetrack, flying through this very high-speed part of the racetrack, now diving downhill into the carousel, gives you a much better feeling of just how downhill it is, turning hard left, trying to just keep the car on the road. You can see the understeer that is really caused by that downhill segment of the racetrack, and now heading up towards the next double right-hander. There could be a slowdown potentially here for Evan Dalton. I'm not entirely sure. He's not, I don't know, but it could just be these wet conditions. You see the puddles, those little dots on the racetrack. Those are puddles that are just going to be costing these drivers grip throughout this wet portion of the race. I see them flying through this S section down the hill towards the chicane now. World chance to try and pick up some time. Flick it in through the first apex, clip that inside curb, really fly over the second curb there because it's pretty much non-existent, it's very flat. As long as you stay on the road, you're alright. As now we head into the final corner, and this is where puddles could well be forming and causing some issues, and look at all that, the aquaplaning through that final corner, making it much harder for these drivers to maintain that level of grip that they need to keep the pace up, and Adam Richardson has dropped back just a little bit from these top two. Let's stay on board for now. We've got a crash having at the back of the pack. We've got, Scott Sandover's up in the air, and Afonso Silva is around as well. As he's actually stuck upside down. Is there any way that Scott Sandover can get back on his wheels? He has indeed managed to do that, and he is back going again in this race. We'll go to the trackside camera. That's a big incident there for Scott Sandover. We're at 2 cars, and with Jonathan Mill's disconnection, actually that does count as 3, so the first caution is about to come out here today in the wet conditions. So let's quickly sort this one out. Apologies for the brief delay. First caution that always takes a little bit longer to work. Mainly because I'm just not very good at doing it, let's be honest. And caution. And the caution is out on the racetrack here at the Sonoma Raceway. Drivers will have to slow down here to pace speed. A couple of cars that are off the pack at the moment, so we're going to save the pit lane won't be open for another lap to make sure that they can catch up. Feel free to comment and say hi. I'm sorry, Jono, we can't. Although, Jono, I would be happy to, after the race, talk to you about looking into potential solutions, as someone's gone a bit wide in the head, isn't it? Look at perhaps discussing what we can do in the future, trying to help with the disconnects, because I think the disconnect rules are a bit outdated now, to be honest, with the caution systems, as you point out. I think we do need to have a little bit of a look into that, and maybe consider making a rule on that to help people who are disconnected, but I can't really commentate, make rules, and then let everyone know the rules. It's too many things. Also, it would be slightly questionable to be making up rules that, you know, mid-race. So I'm very sorry, Jono. But I'll be happy to discuss with you after the race about potential fixes to at least help when these sort of things happen in the future. As the field is now going to be caught up by the time they get back to the pit lane, so I'll let them know the pit lane is now open. Another comment. I don't blame you at all, John. I would have done the same. It's fine. And I agree, it was very much worth asking. Just unfortunate, sadly. Yeah. As we see the field now, making their way down the hill, at least you got the chance to root for your driver here, out in the lead at the moment, Aston Lewis. Whilst also eating pizza. So, you know, double goodness there. But Aston Lewis out front. Will anyone choose to pit here? That is the question. The pit lane, for those wondering, is straight on at the final corner, and got to go quite a way straight on, because it's the track has another layout that goes further in that direction, so you've got to go quite a way straight on before you eventually get to the pit lane. Probably isn't that different to like a Formula 1 style pit lane because of the runoff areas they have to have, and we do see Aston Lewis go straight on. As we have got a car, I believe, is spun under caution. Some cars staying out, some cars going in. Let's see what they do here. Aston Lewis' pit, who has stayed out. Evan Dalton has stayed out here. And so has Adam Liu, by the looks of things. So into the pits comes Aston Lewis. He boxes from the lead of the race. And are those slick tyres? Are they putting them on? No, they're going to leave those slick tyres off as see another car pitting there. So it looks like it's just a refuel here for these drivers. Will Aston Lewis come out in third place? He will indeed. As behind him we have Afonso Silva, actually. Where's it? Oh, Afonso Silva, has he jumped? Oh no, just... So ignore the timing on the top left, it's got a bit jumpy because of the weird sort of pit lane we have here. So I believe it's Aston, then Afonso, then Adam Richardson, then Scott. Okay, that makes sense. But the two drivers that set out were Evan Dalton, second in the championship, and Adam Liu, currently sitting fifth in the championship. This has suddenly mixed up the field. This is what we were looking for, let's be honest. A little bit of a mixing up of the order, and with the fuel perhaps being changed ever so slightly, we could see a change to the outcome of this race, and certainly add another element of strategy into this one. As the top driver, I'm not sure if we'll be able to go green this time or not. It's quite a long pit lane here at Sonoma, so, and also quite a relatively short lap, so it's could take a lap or two to get them back in a group together. But we'll get ready so that we can help them out, as I believe Adam Richardson has gone off the road here. As he makes his way back onto the track, he is, luckily for him, stayed ahead of Scott Sandover. We'll see these guys as they start to catch up, and he's always gone around again now. He probably will lose the position to Scott Sandover now, unless he gets it going very quickly. Carefully, don't reverse into him. That was a close one, but he will drop down to 5th place. I've got a feeling here Adam Richardson may have gone onto the slicks, which would explain why he's having some issues with grip, but wouldn't explain why he's gone onto slicks, if that makes sense. It doesn't seem like a good call to me in the slightest. He's also leaving in 6th gear to try and yeah, that spin looked very much like a spin because you're on slick tyres. Perhaps he's gone too early here on the call to slicks. So hopefully he can catch up fairly soon. Scott Sandover also yet to catch up. I think once Scott, is he on slicks as well? Let's watch Scott Sandover here. Let's see what he looks like he's on. It's harder to tell. But you're probably looking at the screen going, it's quite clearly wet tyres on those cars. But the game has a bit of a glitch where it doesn't show the compound. Let's see if we can switch back to him. Let's show slicks now. No. Still showing wets there. I'm not sure if both of these drivers are on slicks or both of these are on wets. The reason why that's important is on the basis of if they're failing to maintain speed because they've gone for slicks, then the caution won't wait for them, basically. But if it's just purely that they're sort of they're just a bit slow, if that makes sense, they're just not having the best of time in these conditions. But now we should get a comparison. Does Adam Richardson manage to keep up with Scott Sandover here? Because that would, I think they're both on slicks by the looks of things here. As you can see them sliding around here. You can see it was a bold call to go to slick, so we will be green this time, because if they were on wets they would have caught up by now, and we can't sit under caution forever waiting for them to catch up to the pack, because otherwise they could just be sat at this distance for the rest of for another 5 laps, by which point it might actually be dry conditions. So I hope you sort of see the thought process there as Adam Richardson spun around. So I don't think either of these guys hardly going to catch up to the pack, but it's sadly like when drivers take that call, that's part of the risk, is that you've got to try and catch up to the pack, because if it was wet, then we probably would have considered waiting. We probably wouldn't have that point. It's been another lap. Because they've gone to slicks, we can't wait for them to catch the pack, because that gives them a bit of an unfair advantage in the sense where the track might be drier by then, because the sky does very much look sunny above this racetrack now. So I do think the rain has stopped. It is now starting to dry up, but as you can see from what those two guys have been up to, a long way to go here. But Evan Dalton out front is going to bring us back to green flag racing. Evan Dalton leads us here up towards turn 1 and turn 2. Let's see, Adam Liu here in second position. He's under pressure there from Aston Lewis, who goes a little bit all over the road on the entrance to that corner. That could put him under pressure here from Alfonso Silva, who's going to go side by side with him into the S section, not quite able to keep his nose in there. As we have got both Scott Sandover and Adam Richardson with problems here, still struggling to catch up to the pack, so that's at least one, because Scott has already spun, if not 2, because of the many issues that Adam Richardson has been having with the slick tyres at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a spin soon here, as Adam Liu here in second position. He is currently running in a fairly decent position for his championship hopes. He will obviously want that lead, get the extra 10 points that you get from the win here. But second is better than where he's running. I think it was 5th before the caution. So I think he'll be hoping to try and stretch this fuel until the rain is entirely clear, which is, I don't think is impossible. I think that's very much a possibility. So yeah, I would be surprised if he can't get the fuel to the dry period, at least to a point where it's worth risking the dry tyres. Oh, it's Evan Dalton. He's gone for a spin from the lead of the race. So is Adam Liu. That's 2 cars around in contact, and the caution is going to fly here. The caution is going to come out. The caution is out here. Evan Dalton, he went for a slide in the final corner, and then Adam Liu, well, they had a sympathy spin, helped along by an Aston Lewis, who gave him a sympathy tap. Yeah, that's the puddle we were talking about, that aquaplaning that final corner. As this track starts to dry, that aquaplaning moment will get worse and worse, not because it's getting wetter, but because it's, compared to the rest of the track, it's drying slower, which means that you're doing, instead of doing the whole lap in very wet conditions and then getting to a very wet part of the track, you're doing the whole lap in slightly wet conditions before getting to very wet. So the shock factor, I suppose, the best way of describing it, sort of that sudden moment of where on earth has the grip gone, it's a much bigger step when the track is starting to dry like it is now, which is why it's easier to make that mistake, because you're not acclimatized to the level of grip, or the step down I should say in grip. It is a much bigger step, which causes the drivers to struggle a little bit more on there. But yeah, the field's just going to wait for them to all close up here for opening the pit lane. And we will wait for those two to, well, we're going to give them reasonable time again here to try and let them catch up to the pack. Given the track could now well be legitimately quicker on slicks, or as quick on slicks, we give these guys another lap if so needed, and it does look like that will be needed. I think Adam Richardson, he will catch up to the pack here, and he will indeed. Scott Sandover, will he catch up to the pack? I'll get the message ready to type just in case he does. But no, he's not going to catch up to the pack in time, sadly, so we'll have to keep the pit lane closed for one more lap here. And if you're wondering why I've given them an extra lap to pit whilst not doing it to throw to green, it's purely based on the fact that we had, what, just under a lap from the caution coming out to when they've reached the pit lane again. Whereas this time, someone is actually going into the pits. Who's that? Is that Alfonso? Oh, no, it's Adam Liu. Adam Liu's gone to the pits here when they're closed. That's a naughty thing to do. So he will have to start at the back of the field no matter what. I don't know what he's done there, to be honest. He's got enough fuel, so I'm not quite sure why he's made that decision. Is he going straight for the pit lane, actually? He might, if he goes straight through, then I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Maybe he didn't realise the pit lane was closed. And yeah, he's going straight through the pit lane, so yeah, he hasn't serviced the car, he's just thrown away 4 positions, so he's gained nothing from that trip through the pit lane, so he can restart in whatever position he gets to restart in, because he hasn't gained any advantage from doing that. He's lost 4 positions, or 3 positions, sorry, by just driving through the pit lane. If he'd serviced the car and got himself on new tyres and refueled, then you can see there that he's gained that advantage, so it would be unfair to just let him cycle to the lead because he pit a lap earlier unfairly. But he just drove through the pit lane. If he stays out now, he's still going to have 20 laps of fuel and the same amount that he would have had if he stayed out, if he hadn't gone through the pits, if that makes sense. So yeah, he will have to join up and most likely pit with the rest of the field, as it looks like we could be getting ready to go to slick tyres now in this race. Evan Dalton will be your leader. If we do, we'll go to slicks. There is an advantage though here in the sense that Adam Richardson and Scott Sandover don't have to pit for slicks. So I say Evan Dalton will be your leader. He won't. He'll be in 3rd place at worst, or at best. It could go either way. Basically, he could be 3rd place. Yeah, I'm not good at predictions. Yeah, Evan Dalton out front at the moment. Scott Sandover and Adam Richardson will most likely cycle the front area of the pit lane is open. And in comes to the pit lane as Aston Lewis. Has he stayed out? He has indeed. A couple of cars have stayed out. So Evan Dalton in the pits and 2 cars are staying out on wet. So they're risking it here. They're trying something different. Fair play to them. But Evan Dalton low on fuel anyway. He was going to have to make this pit stop. And he comes in for a set of slick tyres. As Adam Lee also into the pits. And you see now he is servicing the car this time around. As they refuel the car. Again, if you think that maybe, I don't know whether they have changed tyres or not, but if we look here at Adam Richardson, his tyres still appear to look like wet tyres, but they're not. Simplest way of saying it. So yeah, apologies for the glitch there with the game, it doesn't really show it very well. It is frustrating, but nothing new sadly other than me trying to keep you updated as often as I can on what tyre everyone is on. So you know what, I'll do that now. I believe top 2 in this race are both on the wet tyres. Aston Lewis, Alfonso Silva, 1st and 2nd. Then 3rd and 4th, that is Adam Richardson, followed by Scott Sandover, both on slicks. Evan Dalton and Adam Liu, I believe, will both be on a slick tyre, but I can't guarantee that. I don't know that for certain. On the basis that we could see before from the clear lack of grip that Scott and Richardson had, we could see there that they definitely were on slicks, whereas now the track's drying up a little bit more. It's harder to be able to tell the difference sitting here as a commentator. I'm sure if you're driving the car, you can certainly feel the difference, but sitting here watching trackside, it's a harder thing to gauge. And well, that you know what? Forget that. They're on slicks. That's slicks there for Adam Liu. And we won't be green this time, as just like last time we give them that extra lap, but no more than that extra lap. Evan Dalton will be able to see quite comfortably, I think, going through the final corner, whether Evan Dalton is on slicks or on wets. Either way, it doesn't really be much grip, but in one situation there's no grip, the other there's some grip. I think that answers our question quite nicely, that he had to take... Oh, that was a nice drift. Yeah, a very tight line into the corner, trying to avoid the puddles, followed by a slide anyway, shows that they are most likely slick tyres. On that number 12 of Verizon Chevrolet for Dalton Autosport. But up at the front, We're getting ready to go back racing. Here we are, green this time here for the Californian Grand Prix at the Sonoma Raceway. Aston Lewis will be your leader for the restart, but he and Alfonso Silva being on those wets could be at a disadvantage here. It's going to be really exciting here on this restart. We've got 2 cars at the front starting on wets, the 4 cars behind them on dries. This track is very much not necessarily 50-50 wet to dry, but where it's dry, as you can see here, look at this, the difference through this part of the track. You can really see through those corners where you can see all that water flying up off the cars. There, the wets are going to definitely be much quicker. But in the dry corners like this section here appears to be, that's where the question's going to be. What tyre will be quicker through here? The slick, it looks good. The problem is for the slick drivers is that the wet tyre in dry conditions is less off the pace of a slick than a dry tyre in wet conditions is off the pace of a wet, if that makes sense. So a majority dry track, as we've probably got on the moment here, as you'll see them really struggling through this final corner to get back to green flag racing. It's going to be an exciting one here. We are back to racing speed here in the California Grand Prix. It's a good start for Aston Lewis, but a great launch there from Alfonso Silva in second. You can see they've dropped the slick runners by them as they struggle for grip through that final corner. But these top 2 on their wet tyres, they've got a very nice launch, but you can see as they go through this much drier part of the racetrack, those slick tyres are going to be reeling them in so quickly, and immediately Alfonso Silva a little bit wide, that's going to hurt him. These tyres are going to overheat. The wet tyres are there we see as Richardson down the inside of Alfonso Silva and up into second place. But we've still got some wet parts of this racetrack to go as we reach the halfway point of the California Grand Prix. Adam Richardson, he's pressuring for the race lead. He wants that lead. He goes a little bit wide there, or way wide there in the background. That's Alfonso Silva. He's off the road, but he just about keeps control of his car and holds on to that position. So now make our way into this nice little right-hander, and now we re-enter some wet portion of the racetrack. Let's see how bad will the grip be for Adam Richardson. If he gets through this corner ahead of Silva, he's got a fighting chance at maintaining that position down the S section, and he does. He's going to be up in second place still, but now through down this hill, there's going to be much more grip on the slicks. The wet tyres will be overheating, which will be really hurting them through those higher speed corners. As you see, a little bit wide there from Alfonso Silva. But now look, just as Adam Richardson is going to try and go for the lead, they're going to reach a wet part of the racetrack, and surely there's no chance he can make the move into this corner. One of the few very wet parts of the track, and look at them sliding. When you see the wet sliding like that and the dries, you don't have to know racing to know the difference. And look at that, the grip out of the corner. Alfonso Silva flies back at the outside. There's a little bit of contact, massive contact there, but they somehow both save it. Brilliant driving from the pair of them to both keep it on the road. But Alfonso Silva, he's got the move back done. But again, they go back into the dry portion of the racetrack, and he's gonna, well, come under pressure. But it looks like Adam Richardson is gonna try and find a way past, but you can't risk a move like that. The pace difference is huge, but you've got to be so careful when you're that much quicker. You can't take risks. But at the same time, at what point do you have to start taking risks here? He's still that race leader of those on slicks. He's got to push here. But it's not all or nothing just yet. There's still a long way to go in this race. He's got to the inside there. You can see through a corner like the carousel, a big difference in grip, but then it goes wide. Goes wide at the exit, pushing too hard, and that is going to allow Silva back through into second place. That could even allow Sandover, and that's Liu, who's going down the inside of Sandover for a net second place here. On the slick tyres, Sandover loses a spot there. As you look further up the road, big slide for Liu. He's just about going to hold on, but he loses the position again. Zandover back up into fourth place here. What racing we're seeing here at the Sonoma Raceway. What a brilliant race. As up at the front, Aston Lewis. He's still leading by a second over Alfonso Silva now. Adam Richardson, he's right behind Silva again here as they head into the final corner now. You'll see the grip so much better. But there's contact, and they crash through the penultimate corner, and they're going to collect Scott Sandover, and the caution's going to come back out here. The caution is back out on the racetrack here in the California Grand Prix, and that is drama, as who is going to end up out front? Adam Richardson. Where has he ended up? He's dropped down the order significantly because of that collision. Aston Lewis is still your leader. Adam Liu is up into second place now. Evan Dalton is in third. Alfonso Silva, well, controversially sitting in fourth here, ahead of Scott Sandover. And Adam Richardson, he looked like he had a perfect situation to be a favourite for the win. But I said, you need to take risks, but at the same time you can't risk too much. And maybe, you could argue, that may have been Silva's fault. I'm not going to deem whose fault it was now. But even if it was Silva's fault, it's going into that corner, is that a risk you need to take? You're going to lose position on the exit of the corner. I wonder if that was a risk worth taking or not, to be honest. But, you know, at the end of the day, if Silver drove into him, and if Silver made the mistake, he will be penalised for it. But at the same time, you have to think that, was there a way that Richardson, perhaps for his sake, was there something differently he could have done? Not that he's in any way at fault. I don't know whether he is or isn't. Same goes for Silver. But even if he is completely an innocent bystander in that collision, it's a risk that, was it worth taking or not? As the pits will be open now for all the drivers to dive down at pit lane. Aston Lewis leader, I imagine he will pit, but at the same time I don't know, but I almost hope he doesn't. These sort of half and half track conditions we see at the moment are making this racing brilliant. It's almost at the perfect balance of wet to dry. But, that's the disappointing part, is that from now on it's only going to get drier, because the rain isn't here. It's just going to get drier from here on out, so I imagine we'll see those in the wet pit. Aston Lewis, what will he do? He stays out? No, he doesn't, he pits. Gave us that little brief moment of hope before throwing it away. But yes, that is 2 cars down pit road. I'm going to guess that's also Alfonso Silva down pit road. It is indeed. So the 2 wet runners have gone to the dry tyres, and that real lottery stint of the race sadly has come to an end. But wow, that was good fun, wasn't it? That was a nice... If only the race could have been 10 laps shorter, that would have been brilliant to watch all the way to the finish. But sadly, that's racing. We had the good fun. Now we're all going to be on the slick tyres for the final 10 laps of this race. And, well, it may not be the same wet versus dries that we've seen, but there still are some very wet parts of this racetrack. And, on those wet, damp parts of the racetrack, it's going to be so easy to make a mistake, which means it's going to be tough for anyone to break away in this race. Dirty air, of course, will be a factor, but when you're fighting the car as much as these drivers are having to in some parts of this racetrack, if the lead driver makes a small mistake, and it won't need to be a big mistake, it'll only need to be a tiny, tiny error, and that could throw away a huge margin of time, because when you lose control on the wet parts of the racetrack, you sort of just sit there. It almost feels like slow motion as the car slowly drifts off the track, and there's nothing you can do. Once you lose grip on the wet, unless you're Colton Herter at the Indy GP in real life last year, this year I should say, earlier in the year, when you lose control in wet conditions, it's very, very hard to get that grip back, especially in the parts of the track where you see it's not even wet, it's just aquaplaning in a lot of this racetrack, and there's a reason why aquaplaning is so dangerous on the roads and of course in motor racing in real life. But hopefully we'll be back to racing soon. I don't think we'll be able to go green this time, as there's a couple of drivers yet to catch up, and there you see, that's the lack of grip we're talking about through that corner. Really, you're braking for that entire corner on water effectively, which really you have to sort of then think about your turn-in point. Where do you turn in? Do you turn in slower? Do you turn in harder? What do you do to try and keep the car stable? And that is the lottery that is these conditions. But that's what makes them so entertaining, I think. That's what really thrives the love of these wet conditions. You see there another slide there. This is what we're going to see for the next 10 laps of this race. Maybe... Oh, Aston Lewis has got around. Aston Lewis, championship leader, is spun under caution there. And he will drop down to 6th place and restart last for the run to the finish. That's not what he needed, but luckily for him, he was only in 5th place, loses 1 position, so not too bad. Yeah, just demonstrates that under caution, and that mistake has been made. That is why this racing is so good. Why it's so good. Got 10 laps left, 9 laps left at the end of this one, 9 laps of green flag racing remaining. Assuming we go green to the end, which I think is perhaps an assumption, perhaps one that I wouldn't bet any money on. But yeah, that is we have an exciting race ahead of us. As we see, Alfonso Silva's gone around actually, and Aston Lewis has decided not to pass him. Perhaps he would rather do a 6th to 1st challenge than a win the championship challenge, I don't know. Perhaps he'd like to do both. That would be impressive, I suppose. We will be green this time, whereas those two have had their difficulties, but we will all be back together for the restart here. Let's look up at the front. It's Adam Liu, 5th in the championship. A win today would very much help him in his championship bid. He is your leader, ahead of Evan Dalton and Scott Sandover. 3 drivers that all aren't leading the championship. The top 4 are in positions there on the championship: 5th, 2nd, 4th and 3rd. 9 laps remain here in the California Grand Prix. Don't go anywhere. Adam Liu skates his way and slides his way through the final corner. When will he put his foot to the floor? Probably when he first gets the chance to. As they come out of there now, and we are back to racing speed here. We are green in the California Grand Prix once more, and it's a good start for Adam Liu as immediately Evan Dalton is going to come under pressure here from Scott Sandover, who sends one down the inside. That's a bold move. Can he pull it off? He has. What a move on the restart from Scott Sandover. He's up into second place. I didn't see that one coming as Adam Richardson, third in the championship, has spun on the restart. That's the first car to have instant on this restart, so we're at 1 cars already here in this stint of the race. We're 2 away from a caution, but that's not going to help Adam Richardson in this championship bid. That is really not going to help him at all. But Adam Liu, his teammate out front, leading this race now ahead of Scott Sandover. That is a good situation for him to be in, as Scott Sandover up into second place with that brilliant move on the restart. The bravery required to go down the inside of such a high-speed corner in those very damp conditions, as he now slides his way through the next corner. That could allow him to lose the spot again here to Evan Dalton as he looks to try and fight back here, as they were so nearly side by side. These two look like they're going to have quite the battle here today, and I'm all for it. As Afonso Silva, he's not too far back from this group either. He could get involved as they make their way through the nice dry part of the racetrack here. They'll enjoy it whilst it lasts, because it won't last long as they now make their way towards the final corner. Let's watch every car through here now. Adam Liu at racing speed slides his way through there. Where's Scott Sandover gone? Scott Sandover, he's gone a little bit wide. That's given a chance to Evan Dalton. So now make their way out of the corner, sliding their way out. And this lap, it's going to be Evan Dalton. What a brilliant exit there. They both have the same grip, but they crash. And the caution's going to come out here. Big crash down the main straight, and the caution is out here at the California Grand Prix, the Sonoma Raceway. And both of those drivers coming together through the kink. And, well, that was dramatic. A lap ago, we saw... Oh, it's a big crash there. They've collided under caution. What has happened there? Evan Dalton just driven into the back of Scott Sandover under caution. I don't know whether that was... I don't want to speculate. I don't know what's happened there. I was looking at my phone typing caution when that happened. So that I imagine will have to be reviewed after the race. But yeah, drama here. Under green flag and under caution. Be up at the front, Adam Liu now continues to lead the race ahead of Afonso Silva in his rookie season, looking to try and put on a show here today. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought entirely, to be honest. Championship implications for that battle. Evan Dalton second in the championship, he's now 6th. Scott Sandover 4th in the championship, he's now running 5th. Those two not going to like that, as we will have pit open this time. See how the drivers can pit if they do choose to. Yeah, that's it's disappointing that that's what's happened. We saw such great racing from those two the lap before, and then it looked to me like maybe they just... Oh, a little big slide there from Adam Liu as he tries to keep control of the car through that hairpin. Oh my, it's entertaining you in a caution. What a corner that is. We really don't get any laps here to rest for these drivers, nor do I. He's always commentating on these drivers in these conditions. Yeah, to me, that instant going through the kink there in turn 1, it looked like they perhaps just rubbed slightly as they went past, whether that was Sandover not turning as much to the left as Evan Dalton thought it was going to, maybe Evan Dalton steering more than Scott Sandover sort of thought it could go either, or who knows what happened. But it looked to me like once they just rubbed the tyres, then they sort of got stuck on each other, and sadly from then on there was nothing either of them could do to try and survive the crash. So yeah, that's a shame for those two. Brave racing 2 laps in a row. And that's what happens. Brave racing, sometimes you look, sometimes like the first attempt it's brave, the second time it looks stupid. I'm not saying it was brilliant racing, and it's to have the guts to do it. And let's not know Evan Dalton, they have the same amount of grip. They're both on slick tyres out of that corner. The grip, the traction that Evan Dalton got there was absolutely wonderful. It's those sorts of moves, they don't look that exciting. They're not like a nice dive on the brakes like Scott had done the previous lap. But to be able to just like control the throttle pedal so beautifully to get out of the corner and onto the straight. If that hadn't ended the way it did, that would have been a wonderful overtake to get back ahead of him there. And wow, that would have been an exciting battle to see to the end of the race for what was a podium position at the time. And I'll lose state LM there. We've still got a lot of racing here to go here in this one. Green this time. No one pitted, so we're going to be probably the quickest caution of the race, thankfully. And, well, we've got another exciting moment of who will survive the final corner on this restart. They've been fairly good so far, but, well, we've seen how tricky it is. This is going to be an exciting time through the final corner now. Adam Liu leads them back to green flag racing. Through the final corner he goes. I would say foot to the floor, but foot closer to the floor than it was beforehand. His foot is now to the floor, and we are back racing here in the California Grand Prix, and they have all made their way through the final corner here. Alfonso Silva in second. Will he be clear as they make their way through turn 1? He tries to close in the gap as all these drivers using all the grip they have at their disposal through these drier portions of the racetrack. Alfonso Silva really feeling the pressure there from Aston Lewis, who went from 6th to 3rd in that previous restart, thanks to some incidents for others, as I see Evan Dalton and Scott Sandler quite close to the back here. This should be a nice tasty bit of racing. Here's contact between the two of them again, and this time have they both gone around again? No, just Evan Dalton. What is going on with these two? I don't believe that. That is, I imagine the stewards may be busy after this one. Evan Dalton with a big moment there. Contact again between those two, and Evan Dalton this time goes around all on his own. But up at the front, Adam Liu leads this race. Oh, a big moment from Liu. Can Silva get the overlap out of the corner? Has he been able to get side by side? He has. They're side by side through the S section. Down the hill they fly. And that is Adam Liu somehow holding onto the lead with the racing line through that S section. And Alfonso Silva stays behind for now. But then we just see there the slightest moment of wheel spin. The moment those wheels begin to spin, they're so hard to get them back under control. As now they make their way into the hairpin again. The final corner of the race. Oh my, what a race we're witnessing as they come out of the final corner now. And again, oh, there's a spin there. Who was that? That was Aston Lewis, I think, went around. It was. Aston Lewis got around. And Scott Sandover has even caught up on it as well. They're all sliding all over the road. Scott Sandover, I don't think he's spun in all of that. I believe he's just been slowed by it, to be honest. I don't think he spun. At least didn't look like to me. How much time did he lose? He may well have lost 3 seconds, though. So bear with me for a very quick moment here. What was the gap beforehand? Sorry, let's watch the racing. Let's leave it with the leaders whilst I investigate what happened here. Going into the corner, what was Scott's gap? It was 3.9. What is the gap now? It is 7 point something, which means, yeah, we're going to throw the caution here at the racetrack again, as it is just within time to do so. The caution is back out here at the Sonoma Raceway. Apologies for the delay with that one. I wasn't sure if Scott had been caught up in that, and I've had some incidents previous races where after the race I've been perhaps slightly told off for missing things, so I wanted to double check that and be 100% sure. So that's what I'm going to go with on this occasion, as the film went through the final corner, as they prepare for what is going to be a sprint to the finish. There will be no more cautions after this one. The amount of laps required in the race to have another caution are 3 laps and a sector. So lap 24, going across the sector 2 split, end of sector 2 split, that would have been the limit. So then you have lap 25, 26, 27, and the final sector of 24. As the pit will be open this time. I don't think anyone will pit, but again, after controversy last week, I am going to be extra careful and make sure that if they want to pit, they can pit, rather than just sending them back green flag racing without checking. Yes, we've got an exciting finish here, folks. This is really going to be exciting. There's no other word for it. It's just exciting. It's simple as that. Even though we don't see any overtakes or any sort of anything, it could be worst case scenario. We have an exciting restart here because we've seen the level of grip these guys have. But they're going to be on the absolute limit going through some of these damp parts of the racetrack. The drivers are probably hating this right now. They probably despise the weather for being rain and leaving this aquaplaning moments. But from a commentator's perspective, this is wonderful. Can we have this every week? This is brilliant stuff. But Liu is your leader. The pits will be open this time. We won't be green this time. The pits will be open this time. So any driver that wishes to pit can indeed do so. Giving them that opportunity. And wow, what a race we are witnessing. Sonoma. It's always been one that's it's always had its moments. It's never been a classic necessarily, but it's always underrated, I'd say. Everyone it's not often the race that people look forward to on the season. It's often one of the races which is our typical American road course, no real runoff area that can be used safely, and yeah, just overall a bit of a pain sometimes. But in the races, it certainly delivers. Last season we saw that brilliant battle for the win. Freeway battle between Evan Dalton, Jonathan Mills and Jackson Turner battling for the win, and what a race that was. And I remember, I think back to the first ever pre-season event for the series, that happened in let's quickly let them go green this time. That happened at this circuit on a different layout, I believe, of the circuit. But even that had an exciting finish where it was sort of the race leader had a track limit penalty, second place didn't, and even though there wasn't much overtaking in that one, it still went right down to the wire. And yeah, it's I'd say one of the most underrated tracks. Admittedly, this season has been hard to a lot by the weather at the start, but wow, we're in for an exciting finish. So do not turn away. Getting ready to go green this time. They'll once again have to nurse their way through the final corner of the lap and just hope that by the time they get to the start-finish line, the car's still facing the right way. They go through the chicane now. There will be 2 laps remaining. It is a green-white checkered for those of you that watch NASCAR. You'll know what that is. Green flag will wave at the end of this lap. The white flag will wave at the end of the next one, followed by the checkered after that. And they skate their way through the final corner. And we are getting ready now to go back to green flag racing in the Californian Grand Prix. 2 laps remain, green flags flying once more. And it's Adam Liu with another good jump here. Alfonso Silva in second, looking to try and find a way past him as they head uphill steeply. And Adam Liu just about barely keeps on the road. He's going to feel the pressure as they head into the next corner. It's Evan Dalton, he's pressuring the back of Adam Richardson just behind them as well. Alfonso Silva looking to try and take the lead here, to try and take his first career win. Adam Liu looking to try and take a crucial win for his championship chances as someone spun further down the field. Who is that? Is that Aston Lewis? Aston Lewis has spun. Evan Dalton's had a problem as well. That's 2 cars with issues here on the restart. That's 3 cars now out front trying to break away. It is Adam Liu who leads ahead of Alfonso Silva and Adam Richardson. This is going to be a scrap to the finish. The top 3 with a bit of a gap over the rest of the field, who have had some struggles here on this restart. As Adam Liu makes his way into the wet part of the racetrack. He keeps it all facing the right direction though, doesn't have too much wheel to put on exit, and he manages that gap. It's 3 tenths though, it's 2.5 tenths as they dive their way down the S section. The downforce is put to the test here as they now brake heavily into the chicane. Silva so late on the brakes. Liu having to brake as late as he possibly can to make sure that he makes the corner. But as we head into the hairpin now, we're going to have the top 3 nose to tail. What could possibly go wrong? That's what could go wrong. Adam Liu taken out by Alfonso Silva. That's going to give Adam Richardson the lead. Scott Sandover, where's he going to come out of all this? But Adam Richardson, he leads the race as we've got 1 lap left. The white flag flies. Adam Liu, he's held on to second place miraculously. Alfonso Silva drops to third and there's contact again. Evan Dalton and Scott Sandover have collided for the 4th time in this race. And Sandover has to wait for that 1 car to pass him, and now he can rejoin the racetrack. He's down to 6th. He'll be furious. Another incident between those 2. What is going on? They're like magnets in this race. But Evan Dalton in 4th, Alfonso Silva in 3rd. He's going to have to try and repass Adam Liu, the driver that he had that contact with at the end of the previous lap. It's now given a 4-second lead out front as Alfonso Silva goes off the road. He's rallying through there. He slides, he spins, and Alfonso Silva has lost the chance at the podium there. He's going to have to get his car back going quickly and he might just hold on to 5th. But up at the front, Adam Richardson slides through the watery parts of this racetrack as Alfonso has retired from the race, perhaps unsurprisingly given that ending to the race for him. But Adam Richardson, he survived the carnage, he survived the weather. He's proven to be quite a force on this sort of day when it's changeable conditions. There's one man who flies above the rest, the favourite going in. Perhaps we weren't expecting it throughout this race. He didn't necessarily look like the favourite at times in this race, but he spins in the final corner, but he just holds on. The favourite going in, he's going to win it. Adam Richardson, he gets another win. He wins the California Grand Prix. Adam Liu will hold on to take 2nd, ahead of Evan Dalton, who had certainly wasn't a quiet day for him. Aston Lewis, same goes for him. Did anyone have a quiet day truly? As then, in 5th place, that went to Scott Sandover. What a drive from everyone in that race. Conditions that were anything but easy. What a race. What a race. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Adam Richardson is your winner here today, controversially to say the least. He did nothing wrong, at least from what I saw and from what I can remember. But drama throughout this race. Evan Dalton will take second, well, he'll take third. Actually, Adam Liu, I believe, he disconnected before he went to the results screen, so he will be second. Then it's Evan Dalton. Then it is Aston Lewis, with Scott Sandoval running up in fourth place here today. With not quite getting to the flag on the final lap there, so he marked with a DNF, sadly for him. But wow, that was wow. I can't believe what I've quite witnessed there. Thank you so much to everyone who watched, and please do make sure to tune in again next week for what I believe could well be a return to the oval of Daytona. Don't mark my words, and I'm not 100% sure, but please do return next week at the same time for another exciting race. But that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.